Aly Walsh, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Jordan. How you going?
Very well, and you?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
I just
Looking forward to this.
caught wind off her that you're an author of child books, so I think I'll be ordering myself a nice little care package for the daughter. But I'm excited to jump into your story and how everything's developed and changed in that journey, and now getting into property, what that all looks like. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting journey, and I guess I've been lucky enough to know you for a little while now and be a part of of that journey and what that looks like and work with you in different worlds. But no, I'm keen to share that with the listeners. But I
Thank
guess
you.
to get us started, what do you feel like your philosophy around building a portfolio would be over the long term?
Well, to start with, education. I believe education is key. It's imperative. Rather than just thinking of it as a buy and sell or looking at properties and just buying whatever, I believe that, definitely doing the education first and foremost is my philosophy.
Yeah,
And knowing that it's a long game, not just a short game.
I think it's definitely the most important especially when I first started, all I did is just consume as much as I could in terms of podcasts and books and everything else like that, and learned what worked for me as well. I think one of the hardest things was everyone had a different opinion on something. And
Oh, definitely,
you still
definitely.
get quite confused with all the conflicting things that people say. And so, really honing in on what resonates well with you. I'm a big data guy, so sticking to data and statistics and numbers, and then
Yeah.
figure what your own sort of plan looks
And you
like.
could, I don't think you'll ever know everything. I think you're always going to learn new things. And I think being open to learning new things is also key because it's ever changing. Like, I mean, we saw that over COVID, it's always changing. And
Yeah,
every week I learn something new.
that's such a good point. Especially during COVID, I think a lot of fundamentals that we would stick to or assumptions that we would presume would be the same forever really changed. And so
Oh, yeah.
um, I've probably talked about this 1,000 times on the podcast, but like looking at that sea change, tree change movement during COVID, it really just shows you how dominant property prices can increase when there is demand. When there's particular areas that have incredible demand over a short amount of period, it's going to drive the prices of properties up. And we're going through that situation now on a personal level of trying to do that sea change, tree change, but everyone's
Yeah,
done
yeah.
it before us, so all the prices have gone up, and it's just crazy to you know see the market cycles and how they play out over time and what really does impact different markets. So I think it's
Oh, for sure.
spot on. And I guess
Yeah.
being on that education piece, what would you go back if you could and tell yourself when you first started building up the portfolio?
Oh, buy more and earlier. When you're 15, look at, working at Macca's in Kentucky and save up those bloody deposits. Get in there, I mean, it's going to be harder and harder for our kids. You've got a 2-year-old and I've got an 18-year-old and a 15-year-old, and I feel sorry for them. I think it's just going to be so hard for them to get in. And although, I've already started my kids' accounts for their deposits, but just learning earlier and getting in there earlier. Although I did buy my first property at 24. So, I think I don't know if that's older or what, but if I had my time again, I'd probably go back at 18 rather than worrying about travel and going out and drinking and socializing, putting that money into a deposit. That's definitely one thing I would tell my younger self to do. Yeah.
Well, hopefully when your kids are 16, 17, 18, maybe thinking about all that sort of stuff, they can listen to this and get some wise words from mother. And even though there's a few books around the household, what was one of the books called? My mummy monster or something.
My mum says blah, blah, blah. And Mummy Monster came to visit. No theme whatsoever. Not giving you any hints about what I'm like in the morning. Not at all. But yeah, my 18-year-old's not even thinking about property. But my daughter, who is just 15, is already thinking about, she wants to buy her first unit or whatever in 3 or 4 years' time. And I think that's because I'm drumming it into her, or you know, they're hearing about it constantly. I talk about it all the time. But definitely, I think, you know, that's one thing that I think even in schools, I think they should be taught about that sort of thing, just to get themselves, you know, sort of prepared and looking at the future.
Yeah, that financial literacy component is definitely lacking. Like I did
Oh,
business
for sure.
economics and mathematics, which should probably, between those three, you'd hope there'd be some sort of financial or money management or something in there. But yeah, I really didn't come walking away with any sort of real, you just learn equations or terminology in the economic world, which didn't benefit an 18
Mm,
year old who really didn't know much about money anyway. Um,
no.
yeah, I couldn't agree more. So given you bought your first at 24, which well done, that is fairly young. So congrats for that. But I mean, how's that journey been since then? And do you feel like you've made any mistakes, or is there anything that you would change about your current portfolio?
Oh, most definitely. I think for us, well, my husband is very old school. I think the mistakes that I'm now looking back is that we were working towards being debt free rather than having a portfolio of properties. We bought our second at 30. Rather than keeping our first, we sold our first to be debt free for the second. That's paid off for us because, you know, we bought in Inner West in Melbourne. You know, the prices back then, a decent house 400,000. We're looking at 1.5 maybe to get a decent house in Yarraville where I am. But you know, I guess that's the kind of the old mentality, or the old-fashioned mentality maybe, of the middle class, of being debt free. We achieved that quite young, which was great. But building that portfolio, that is definitely the thing that I would change, and start doing that earlier. So via the education, learning as much as possible. I think that is really key. It's about the long-term game, and, you know, knowing that you've got, you know, properties to fall back on when you retire and sell, and cash flow, all of that definitely would
Yeah,
change.
it's such a big one, and I feel like there probably wouldn't have been as much availability and resources as well to educate about extracting equity or using offsets. Like it's definitely a common
No,
theme that I hear of, I wish I bought more earlier, or didn't sell, properties to get others. I wish I just held the ones that we had. But yeah, it just seems like it would be hard to make that a mistake again today if you were somewhat inclined and wanted to learn more about it. There's definitely a lot of resources out there that would help people make that decision, but it's definitely a key one. And managing risk is a big one as well. I think I'm a big fan of having good debt. I think it's valuable in terms of inflation eating away at that debt, rather than my own savings. But at the same time, you have to make sure that you can sustain the portfolio and pay for
exactly.
pay for the larger debt while you're on the journey. So I think, yeah, just really educating is key about the whole monetary system. Now let's know a little bit more about your journey. Tell us about that whole book era, because I'm very curious. And
Yep.
what you were doing beforehand, how that all happened, and then when was that sort of light bulb moment for you to start to move into the buyer's agent space?
I've always been interested in property, and that it did come later in life. I am an author of 5 children's books, but that's always been a passion of mine as well, writing. So I remember holding a book when I was 8 years old and said, "Oh, this is easy. I'm going to be an author one day." So actually having a dream come true is just amazing. But the journey of I've been in politics, I've been in hospitality, I've been a publisher, and then the property about 5 years ago. And the funny story is, my husband is a tight ass. Hopefully, he's not going to watch this. But he just, you know, to get him to buy an investment was just so difficult. So I thought, well, I'm going to go and arm myself with the knowledge and education. And I came across a really good program, went and did it, got my license. The more I learnt, the more I showed him. But the more I learnt, the more I helped people, and I loved helping people. So that's kind of in a nutshell how it all came about. So hubby, thank you for being a tight ass. You've pushed me into a new direction. But I've loved helping people buy properties over the course of COVID. It's probably close to 200 properties I've helped purchase. It's been a chaotic time, you know, whereas some people weren't working as much. I felt like I just was stuck to my seat. But that's basically, you know, how it led to becoming a buyer's agent. And yeah, I've loved helping people do that. I love helping them find a good property, help them purchase at a good price. I love the thrill of negotiating and undercutting agents, if I can say that. You know, getting it with some equity, and helping them with the due diligence. Yeah, so I've really fallen in love with that whole buying for other people.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's such a when you take the whole experience as a, you know, end-to-end service, there's a lot of moving parts, and it can be quite frustrating for someone who's just buying one property for themselves, especially if it's a principal place of residence, because there's so many little things that they want or, you know, particular about, and it can become a little bit overwhelming. But for someone who's done, you know, nearly 200 deals in the last couple of years, that's pretty phenomenal. And I think you'd have that process down packed. And yeah, you're allowed to say undercutting agents because, you know, they're most likely to be your friends anyway, and, you know, trying to get a good deal across the line, make a deal happen, and obviously buy the right thing for your clients as well. So no, well done. It's a crazy amount of properties in the last little while. So I'm sure your negotiation skills are down packed.
Up there, they're up there. I've learned a lot over the time. I've dealt with every type of agent and every type of buyer. It's been, yeah, a really crazy and exciting journey.
Yeah, nice. Well done. Now there are 1,001 of them out there, and I say that every time when I'm about to ask this question, but I love the property one-liners. If you had one that you'd sort of stuck by, what would it be?
It's probably more of a quote. It's the Warren, oh, what is it? Be fearful when others are no.
Greedy, greedy when others are
Yeah,
fearful.
yeah. The Warren Buffett quote. Be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. And I actually lived that in December 2020. We purchased a property down in Ballarat. And everyone was saying, all our family and friends were saying, you're crazy. And we bought it off without even seeing it because we couldn't even get there in lockdowns. And I can't even believe I convinced my husband to do it. So it was crazy. But we actually sold it for double the price in May this year. So we do double a bid in flipping now, whilst I'm trying to convince him to hold a property. But yeah, so we certainly live that quote.
Yeah, nice. Did you know that you were gonna flip it at the time? And was it a big reno? Or did you do a reno?
It was a renovation. We put about 70 in it. But we have come out with a really good profit. And yes, we knew we were gonna flip it. I think the other side of it is you know, we didn't know how long we were going to keep it or flip it, but it just worked out really well in our favor that the lockdowns and not being able to sell it earlier meant that we made a bigger profit.
Yeah, nice. Sounds like you timed it really well. Middle of the pandemic when everyone couldn't move and you couldn't even go to an open home. And
No,
and now, yeah, strong market. Was a strong market sort of 6 months ago. So yeah, timed it really well.
definitely.
Well done. Well, thanks for coming on. It's always great having a bit of a chat and getting to know, you know, understand your history and your philosophies and where you've been. And again, well done for 200 purchases. I think that's absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, it's I can't. I'm trying to do one at the moment. I can't imagine doing 200. So well done.
Well, you're the numbers man. See, I don't do the numbers, but I must say that your games plan is just amazing. I love the platform. I love the forecasting, the fact that you've got the cash flow breakdowns, helping with budget. So well done on that.
Thank you. I am the numbers guy. I do love that side of things. So yeah, we all work to our strengths.
We do, we do. But thanks, Jordan, for having me.
No worries, Ali. It was great to catch up, and I'll talk to you soon.